Another strategy under T for toxins is download the app Think Dirty. I have no financial interest in it, but the app Think is not what you think it is. It allows you to scan your personal products, and it'll tell you on a scale of 1 to 10 how quickly they're killing you. So for example, since I was 14, I shaved with Barbasol.
Yeah.
I like it, it's soft, it works. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being bad, it's a 9.
Come on.
And I'm like, no, I like myself way too much to put crap on my body. Wow. And so I get something now called Kiss My Face that's a 2. And people go, well, it's more expensive. And it's like, it is, except it lasts 50 times longer. So it's way less expensive. It's just a practice of being thoughtful about what I put in my mouth, what I put on my body. And people go, isn't that hard? Wow. And I'm like, being sick is hard.
That's hard.
This is easy. God gave you a big brain for a reason. None of this is hard. It just, you create new and different habits. Because ultimately, the mother habit, is this good for my brain or bad for it? No, by the way, if it's good for your heart, it's good for your brain. I wrote a fun book you would really like called The Brain in Love. I used to be a columnist for Men's Health magazine. Okay. And I wrote a column for 3 years, Am I Normal? People write in about all the... And so anyways, I wrote Brain in Love. And I've been saying forever, whatever's good for your heart is good for your brain, because it's about blood flow. Your brain is 2% of your body's weight, but uses 20% of the blood flow. And 30% of the calories you consume, which is why food's so important. But whatever's good for your heart is good for your brain. When I was writing Brain in Love, I went, whatever's good for your heart is good for your brain, is good for your genitals, because it's all about blood flow. Did you know 40% of 40-year-olds have erectile dysfunction? Which means 40% of 40-year-olds have brain dysfunction. Because if you have blood flow problems anywhere, it likely means they're everywhere. So Tana, my wife, is a neurosurgical ICU nurse, so she loves what we do. And so when I suggested, hey, come to the clinic, let me look at your brain, she was all in.
Okay, and then what did you see in the brain, and how did that match your...
So her brain was actually pretty healthy, but I could see she had a head trauma in the past. And I'm like, do you ever have a head injury? And she said, no. And I'm like, because the scans don't lie. And I'm like, so maybe it was before she could remember anything, right? But she's like, no. I'm like, ever in a car accident? She goes, yeah, when I was 25, my sister fell asleep at the wheel going 75 miles an hour.
Gosh.
We flipped 3 times, landed on the roof, and only because my seat was, I was laying back, that I survived. She said, but I didn't lose consciousness. And what people don't realize, consciousness is a brain stem phenomenon really deep in the brain. You can totally damage the cortex of the brain. And so but we work to make it better, and she's been my best friend for 15 years.
Wow. So if someone has a damaged brain, let's say you're hypothetically have the ability to go and get it scanned, you meet someone, you're dating them, you're like, I really like this person, I'm gonna get them scanned, and their brain is messed up. Let's just say.
Just know you're in for a wild ride. Now, if they're not willing to do anything about it, why would you be in a relationship with it? It's just your life's going to be hard. But I love them, and it's going to be stressful. But if they're like, oh, well, let's make this better.
Let's improve it.
That's awesome. Yeah. Right? I mean, that's the attitude, right? If I scan my daughter's boyfriend, and he goes, no, I'm not going to do any of this. Then you need to move him on.
Or you've got a decision. You're either going to struggle in this relationship, and you maybe have some good times, but a lot of stress, or you can move on.
Right.
It's
just a piece of information that I think everybody should have. And when you're young and love, you don't really think about, well, how's his mom, how's his dad, what's the family history? But, being 66 and being a psychiatrist for 40 years, all of those things matter.
Yeah. And we mentioned diabesity, which is being overweight, high blood sugar, obesity, stuff like that. What's the S in bright minds?
Sleep. Absolutely essential. So we talked about autophagy early. That's what happens when you sleep. Your brain cleans, it washes itself. Actually, the cleaning crew shows up. We didn't even know that. It's a system called the glymphatic system that is asleep basically when you're awake and turns on when you're asleep.
Like sweeping out thoughts, stress, fat cells.
Integrating information, but literally cleaning the synapses in your brain. Like the cleaning crew shows up. And if you're not sleeping 6.5, 7, 8 hours a night, trash is building up in your brain, making you more likely to be depressed, to have brain fog,
overweight, all those things, right?
Yeah, and so being disciplined about a good time for sleep, avoiding things that hurt sleep, doing things that help sleep can be just so helpful.
Yeah, I had Andrew Huberman on a couple times, neuroscientist out of Stanford, and I told him, you know, I'm trying to improve the quality of my brain, and I'm taking Spanish class 3 days a week. Got a private Spanish teacher. One, because for 20 years I've always wanted to do it, but it always gets too hard and I stop. And then at the end of the year, when I reflect on what I'm proud of, I'm always not proud that I didn't stick with something I wanted to do. So I keep telling myself, I either need to let this dream go and kill the dream and move on with my life, or I need to actually be consistent with it, even if it takes me years of practice until I'm fluent or conversational. And for the first 3 months, it was like, it hurt my brain so much. Just learning, studying, trying to remember these things, it just was painful. Now I'm noticing the ideas are just as complex, but my brain isn't under so much pain and stress or just confusion or whatever. Like, I'm not enough, or I can't get this, or whatever it's saying. It's more like, okay, I understand this is challenging, but I know I can get this. So let me be patient with myself. And I feel like I'm picking up so much more because I may not get it in that moment, but then the next day or 3 days later, because I'm resting, because I'm cleaning out the mess, it's integrating. Like when I sleep, I feel like it's integrating what I learned days ago, and now I remember it. But if I'm not sleeping well, if I'm stressed out, it's much harder to remember these things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because it's one of the things that sleep does. It integrates what we learn during the day, and it compares it to our experience from the past, and then decides what to keep and what to let go. But if you're not sleeping well, or you're drinking to put yourself to sleep, it damages REM sleep, which is the most restorative sleep, and you're not going to get the benefit from it.
Yeah.
So sleep is absolutely essential. Sleep apnea, people who snore loudly, who stop breathing at night, triples their risk of Alzheimer's disease.
Really?
Yeah.
Sleep apnea. So how do we, well, I mean, it's probably applying these things will help you get rid of sleep apnea. And obesity is probably a big part of sleep apnea, I'm assuming, right?
For some people. Now, some people are thin and have sleep apnea and they need to wear a CPAP. But working with the smartest people I know, right? This would be part of greatness, that the smartest people I know work with the smartest people they know.
Yeah.
And so stop denying you have a problem or saying I won't do this or that. So many guys go, oh, I'll never wear a CPAP. It's like, well, you're murdering those baby seahorses every night when you're not breathing, because so we talked about your brain uses 30% of the calories you consume, 20% of the blood flow goes to your brain, 20% of the oxygen. Any oxygen debt state damages your brain. And I have like near drowning brains. They're
That's
just
not good.
awful.
Really?
Any oxygen debt state, and sleep apnea is an oxygen debt state.
Really?
Because you stop breathing, which is a very bad thing.
Then? Are you able to recover those brains that had near drowning or?
Sometimes. Yeah, it depends. We don't have the Lazarus treatment to bring dead brain cells back to life, but we can get the struggling ones better. And I have one girl, it just breaks my heart. She was taking too much of a pain medication, and her heart stopped for 10 minutes. And I have her brain beforehand, it was this big, fat, I don't know, watermelon, and now it's like a prune. And I can get it better. It's never going to be normal.
Really?
Heartbreaking.
Is she able to have an okay life still, or is it
No.
just struggling with?
And it's not just her. It's her parents. Lives will never be the same again. We have to be so much more serious about brain health.